right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to that Star Trek podcast, your place for a detailed analysis and speculation of all things Trek. My name is Sean Ray, and the nasty stress hormones are not in my way tonight. Joining me tonight in the historic Infinite Potato Studios, we have Chris. How are you, sir?
I'm running with the shadows of the night. Somebody had to, and
Somebody
I got
was
to
going
it first.
to. Yeah. Dave, how are you?
I'm okay, man. I'm gonna possibly be the Chris / Rick, even though we have both of them here. I'm gonna be that guy tonight.
All right. And Rick, how are you, sir?
We are one of two, or two of one, or
Two of one. Yeah. So tonight we will be discussing the 6th episode of Star Trek Picard's 2nd season, which was titled Two of One, written by Cindy Appel and Jane Maggs and directed by Jonathan Frakes. Talon helps Picard and crew infiltrate a gala on the eve of a joint space mission to protect an astronaut they believe is integral to restoring the timeline, Renee Picard. Corey makes a startling discovery about her father's work. What do you guys think of this episode? Dave, I'll go ahead and start with you. What'd you think?
I thought it was disjointed as hell. Several things took me out of it. And although Alison Pill has a fantastic voice, that was definitely one of those things that really just yanked me right out of the episode. It just felt very like things coming out of nowhere. Like, we've got to just move this along. It's also like 38 minutes long, and it felt it.
That was with the opening and closing credits and the previously on. Altogether was like 38 minutes.
Yeah, it was strange. I didn't buy that Picard's little hope speech to Renee actually would have changed anyone's mind. And I hate the little conceit of, I feel like I know you because we're related. No, I hate that. That you insert that because you know your script is weak. I had several issues. I'm sorry.
That seems like somebody says that anytime that there's a time travel story where you go back and you meet somebody that you're related to, one of them is somebody's going to say, I feel like I know you, or I feel like in Back to the Future when Lorraine kisses Marty, she says, I feel like I'm kissing my brother.
Yeah. And Spiner's daughter is like, you know what? She has no access to the outside. She can't go out and do anything. She has no friends. She's never done a Google search on her dad before.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
This is the first time. Just, you know what? He was acting kind of weird. I think I'll do a Google search after, however long. Yeah, there were several things that just kind of went.
All right. What about you, Rick?
I listened to your show today, Dave, while I was out driving. So I was like, all right, I can't argue with any of your points. And I thought the song, one of my favorite movies of all time is Tank Girl. So, you put a song and dance number in the middle of a movie for absolutely no freaking reason, I'm usually down with it, but that was stupid. There was no reason that should have happened.
And that's coming from someone who loves Tank Girl, everyone.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll die on that hill. Tank Girl is a great movie.
Look, man, that, love of bad movies or television shows, it's not it's not an indication of bad character. My wife loves 21 Jump Street. What the hell are you going to do? But I didn't dislike the episode as much as you did. Although I will grant you, I despise the 38 minutes earlier bullshit. I hate that trope with a flaming hot passion. And this is the second time they've used it this season, if I'm not mistaken, or at least the second time in Picard. To be fair, it was the right call because everything that came after that for 20 minutes was boring. Yeah. It wasn't the best episode, but maybe being short was a blessing. I really enjoyed the back and forth between the Borg Queen and Jurati. I think that might have been the saving grace of the episode. I'm really over the Ocean's 11 thing. Are they going to stretch it out to another episode, or are we done with the party now? Thank you.
But overall, I mean, I enjoyed watching it. I love watching this crew do stuff. I am more and more enamored of Rios with every episode, so I just enjoy watching him be Rios. But I didn't think this was particularly bad, but no, it wasn't the best either.
I have a question for you. Will you send us pictures of the Teen Beat poster of Rios you have above your bed?
I think that we are probably done with the party, but I think next week we're going to be getting one of those TNG season 7 type cerebral in your mind kind of episodes.
Oh yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah, in the when the Enterprise is dreaming and you're in the holodeck, all that kind of stuff,
Oh, and one thing I do feel the need to point out, because now it's been 2 episodes that I've noticed it. The woman that plays Laris, whatever her name is in this, I'm sorry, she does a terrible American accent.
Oh, awful.
I don't even pay attention to it sometimes. Like, I haven't, like, when people just do bad accents, bad American accents, I'm just like, I don't know what they're going for, but okay. Like, it's like somewhere in my subconscious, I'm just like, You
know what gets it for me, and like, I have heard British people like give Hugh Laurie crap for having a bad accent. I'm like, no, it isn't. He's fine. I'm American. If I didn't know Hugh Laurie was English, I wouldn't know that House was being played by an Englishman.
Yeah.
But her R's. Yeah, I know. My wife didn't know that. I had to tell her Hugh Laurie was English. I saw him first in Red Dwarf, and then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's the dude for Red Dwarf. Not Red Dwarf, Blackadder. Same. Never mind.
I was going to say, I don't remember that episode of
Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf, Blackadder. Blackadder, color, whatever. But it's the R's.
Yeah, it's
English
like
people who try to do a bad American
parody.
accent.
A parody of an American accent is what it sounds like.
Yeah, they hit the R's a little too hard. When I saw 42nd Street in London 25 years ago, it was 42nd Street takes place in Chicago. It's in Chicago, I think, or it's New York. It's a story about a bunch of actors trying to get a play put on, and the play, you never see it. It's just a play within a play, and it's a real stupid show. I hate it. But everybody was just like, their R's were so pronounced. It's like when we do a terrible British accent, and it drives English people crazy. I don't blame them. But just listen to
they don't
R's.
like that. They don't like that. What do you like?
Ooh. But no, in things like Star Trek, you could always like headcanon it as, okay, well, she was a human or other species who was trained to be a supervisor and stuck on Earth. Maybe they just don't have a good accent. Maybe that's just, or she has a weird accent. Like, it bothers me way more, I think, when I see like, here's a Romulan who speaks like she's British.
Yeah.
Or, like all of Star Wars, like every bad guy is just a proper British gentleman. I'm like, what is happening?
Or they're supposed to be from some distant planet, but they've got an Australian accent or something like that.
Yeah, like, good day, mate. Welcome to Talisfar.
Why did the guy that plays Rios, Santiago Cabrera, is that his name? Why is he listed? He's not listed with the main cast. He's listed as featuring, like as featuring this guy, instead of being like, he's been in every episode.
Because if your name is above the rest of the credits, you get a bigger paycheck.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And it's like why Jonathan Taylor or Zachary Taylor, whoever who played Dr. Smith on the original Lost in Space. Every episode he was a special guest
Jonathan
star.
Harris.
Special guest star, yeah.
There is, and God help me, I can't remember it all. My co-host on DC on Screen, he gets all into that, like in the writing credits, the actor credits and stuff. Like if they say ampersand versus and, like what it means exactly. Like there are like very strict guidelines union wise about why they say certain things in those credits. I don't know what they mean, but there's a reason for it.
It means zeros on the paycheck.
Yep.
Chris, what'd you think of the episode?
Mainly spinning its wheels. I was afraid that Picard was going to do this again, and it's done it again. I know that I went on at length on the last show about my fears and how I thought that if they were going to screw the pooch, they were going to screw the pooch royally. And I feel like they almost got there with this episode. I did like where it ended, so I have hope with that. But the fact that Girardi would know a Pat Benatar song from the 80s is just, it's patently ludicrous.
That is a common conceit.
still-
That's a common Star Trek conceit. Like everybody knows like whatever we're listening to now.
I could understand them knowing opera, but they wouldn't know say like pop music from the 80s. You know,
Okay.
I half the people I work with are in their 20s. If I sung them Shadow of the Night, they'd be like, "What are you talking about?"
The Abrams
What
universe did
even
Beastie
is
Boys
that?
twice.
Yeah. Hey, who's to say that some, 24th century pop star didn't like dig back and like do a cover of it and it blew up again on the charts?
Yeah, but Girardi is from the 25th century. She's Buck Rogers singing Pat Benatar.
Yeah.
So I anyway, that was one thing that I was just took me right out of the episode. It's like, oh, what? And I just feel like they're spending too much time. I wish, Rick, that it was like Ocean's 11 because it would actually then be entertaining and fun. But this is just like it really is just now going through the motions. Like we need to set certain things up. So we're going to be here, and I don't know what they're doing with Denise. I like the fact that Girardi is now basically the Borg queen, and she's heading off into LA to I don't know, assimilate people. Let's hope. Let's see something cool happen. I don't know. But it just felt like once again you have 10 episodes and this is filler. And it's 38 minutes of filler. Like, why are people they seem congenitally unable to write compelling stories that can fill 10 hours? It's like, just do 8 episodes if you can't get enough story for 10.
I read something troubling. They asked Terry Matalas how they were able to do 2 seasons back to back. And halfway through the season, which we are now into of season 2, Terry Matalas stopped being the showrunner of Picard, gave it to Akiva Goldsman.
Oh, okay.
And started show running season 3.
Yeah.
But you got to figure that they had it mapped out long before that. They broke the story in the writer's room, so I'm sure that they had every episode mapped out. I guess maybe it looks good on the whiteboard when you're breaking the season, but then when you actually have to write all the individual episodes, maybe you come up short on some of the middle stuff.
But you could argue that Girardi didn't know that song. You could argue that the Borg Queen knew the song when she was like scanning shit inside of
but I don't care. It just takes me out of it. Yeah, there's a million ways to headcanon.
You can headcanon it. That's what I'm saying. But it took me out too.
Why? No, screw you. No, don't do it. I don't need to headcanon it. You just don't
screw
do
me.
It.
Screw me.
See, my problem with it was how did the band?
Yeah, that was
unless
the
this
thing
whole thing is like an illusion, unless none of this is actually happening, because that segment right there was so. Alice in Wonderland, there was no reason. Singing fine, blowing out the lights, the Borg Queen can send out an EMP, fine, that's fine too. But being able to summon up a spotlight and have the band play along with her, that just yanked me right the hell out.
Can someone explain to me how that EMP came to be again? Because it wasn't the Borg Queen doing it through Girardi in some way?
She assimilated Girardi, so the Girardi's got nanoprobes in her, so that's not a problem. The mechanics.
All right, because
fine.
I was thinking that she's still just a figment, and Girardi really doesn't have much Borg in her. So the EMP is, if again, we called her Harvey last week, but if she is like a Harvey, how could Girardi just summon an EMP out of nothing? I guess the nanoprobes.
No, they pretty much spelled out in this episode that Girardi saved her. Like the queen is still alive, but she's in Girardi. So she saved her, and because she even said, don't get mixed up. I didn't save you for you, Basically I didn't want to kill that French cop.
Yeah. I do like the fact that they pretty much intimate that the Borg Queen thrives on positive emotions, thrives on like happiness and joy instead of subservience and fear, because she was negative, negative, negative through the whole thing. And then when she started singing, that's the endorphin rush that I needed to take over. It reminded me of what Picard said when Girardi was actually, going through the Borg Queen's memories and like rooting through her stuff. And he said to her, it will be the greatest feeling you ever have. You will want nothing more than to be with her, to be near her. And I never thought that that would be like what you would experience if you were assimilated. I thought you would just lose yourself, but apparently you lose yourself in a state of euphoria, which doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a neat twist on the Borg that I never even considered.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always kind of thought that, they make the Borg out to be, the big bad, and they've, at their worst can be, pretty terrifying, and, the body horror of it and all that. But yeah, I've never thought of the Borg as being that bad, because they don't kill people. They assimilate them. They think they're the good guys in their book, and don't understand why nobody wants to be part of the collective.
Yeah.
Odo basically joined the Borg at the end of DS9.
Yeah.
His own Borg, but still.
So this episode was weird because it had a lot of stuff that happened that felt necessary to move the plot forward, but it didn't feel like it needed to all happen here. Like they could have spread this stuff out, because a lot of it was just conversations between characters. Like when Rafi and Rios have their little talk, and Rios is going on about how great the cigars are and that kind of stuff. That was the majority of it. Though what little bit was actually necessary for the plot was probably maybe 10 minutes of the episode.
Does anyone here think that Rios is going to stay behind?
He might. He acts like he really likes the in the 21st century. So
he likes that doctor.
I have some ideas. Well, all bets are off, because they're saying that season 3 is going to basically be Next Gen 2.0. Because they announced that all of like the main cast, except for poor Will Wheaton, is going to be at least appearing in some capacity. And
they actually doubled down on it. I saw yesterday, because people were like, "Oh, it's just going to be cameos left and right." And they're like, "Nope, it's the whole cast for the whole season."
Yeah. So they could do anything with this cast now. If our speculation is correct, Girardi is not going to be Girardi by the end of the season. She's going to be some type of Borg. I think that Rios, if you think that he might stay, I think that he might stay in this alternate timeline or whatever it is. But then when they travel back, I feel like they're going to come from this timeline and then make an incursion into the prime timeline. And that's what you see in the beginning of the season. So that will be the way that they get home, and they're going to need Girardi to do it somehow. And that's why she comes saying, I want to join the Federation, so that they could have like an envoy into, and calling Picard and everything. Basically, they can have their cake and eat it too. If Rios wants to stay back with Pretty Doctor Lady, that's great. He can stay back, but then they get back and they're on the Stargazer, and he's there anyway. And the Stargazer, it doesn't blow up, and they can go forward from there. So
yeah, that's it.
I'd take a Rios spinoff. I'd love a Stargazer's Rios spinoff.
Yeah,
let's do it.
But yeah, the episode felt like a lot of filler, and they wanted to do this James Bond Mission Impossible type big black tie event episode, and so that's what they did. But this episode felt the least Star Trek of anything that Picard has done so far. At the same time, I didn't think the episode was completely horrible. There was some stuff that I liked, but there was, like Dave said, there was a lot of stuff that just took me out of it. So what were you going to say, Rick?
If this had been like a TNG episode, everything that happened in the last 2 episodes would have been like 10 minutes in the middle.
Yeah.
That's what, but that's really, that points out, like, again, a big flaw of just like, if you can't fill 10 hours, then what business do you have running a TV show? Yeah. Imagine if they had 26 hours to fill.
A lot of filler episodes.
Yeah, but yeah.
I do disagree that it doesn't that it feels like Star Trek. It does feel like Star Trek. Maybe some of the worst of Star Trek, like the constant callbacks to 20th century and 21st century stuff, like because they do that continuously on Star Trek. And yeah, they say like we don't have records from this time, but I'm like, I'll be damned if Tom Paris didn't know every car that came out.
Yeah.
Like, like there's a lot of like little weird, I feel like they're anachronisms in some way, but that's just the thing of Star Trek. Like Klingons quoting Shakespeare, that's weird. That's weird. but they've been doing it. Like,
everybody knows Earth history better than people from Earth.
Absolutely, it's so strange.
Well, like you remember the Voyager episode where Tom got a television, B'Elanna gave him a television for his birthday or something, and all he watched was like this horrible stuff from like the 30s and 40s.
It's from a channel called Public Domain.
Yeah, the stuff we don't have to pay for. Okay, so the episode opens and Picard's laying there on the floor and he's got blood coming out of his mouth, and even though he's not a human being, and he's still having all those flashbacks of his mother, and then it says 34 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
So as soon as I saw that, I knew, okay, this episode, what we just saw there at the beginning, that's how this episode is going to end. And we're not going to know what happens. We're not going to know if he survives or whatever at the end.
Yeah.
But
it's been like 5 seconds in, I'm sitting there with my hands like, oh my God. Okay. It's not blood, it's coolant. It's not blood, it's coolant.
It's coolant. Yeah, it should have been blue or something like that. But
well, again, this is, I know that, that you have your theory that Q didn't do this, but I think at least a Q has done this. So, 7 is Annika. She doesn't have her Borg stuff in her. They made it clear that Picard is still a robot because he blew up her defibrillator. But, I've seen a lot of discussion trying to rationalize things that happened. And like, how can this be if that is and this and that and that? And I'm like, it's Q. We're already in an alternate reality. So
I think that when Q at the beginning of the season in that first episode, when he told Picard,
he's a total robot, remember?
That happened in an alternate future.
But so this Picard isn't, this Picard wouldn't be a robot.
No, before he became an old man, he had a robotic heart.
My wife is speculating that he's not a full synth in this one, but he does still have his artificial heart, and that's what blew up her defibrillator.
Well, they said they told her he's had some transplants, and they said all of them, everything's been transplanted.
Yeah, they did say that.
Yeah, they did.
But they don't know what's the reality that they're in. That's
that first episode when Q told Picard that he's not the one that changed everything, that Picard is the one that changed everything. I think there's something to that because
wait, Q did say he had his.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I do it all the time. But I don't really mean to interrupt. But Q said you have your synthetic body because Skull Dukat is battle with Dukat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
there was this that line. Watching this episode, I was thinking there's got to be something to that. The fact that Picard may be the one that's actually doing this, because I speculated an episode or two ago about this Wizard of Oz thing going on where characters are popping up, but they're not themselves. They're other people. But they're all people that Picard knows from different places in his life. You've got Adam Soong, obviously. I mean, that's Data popping up in his head. And then Laris, or the lady, what's her name? Talon. She's not Romulan, but then when she cursed in Romulan in this episode, when she pulls up at the phone and she sees that Q is messaging Rene Picard, she curses under her breath. And if you got the closed captioning on, it says down at the bottom, curses in Romulan.
Oh wow,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't catch that.
And there at the end of towards the end of the episode when Picard is in the coma. She says that she can use her Gary 7 Neuro whatever to go into his brain, and it's kind of a makeshift mind meld. But she's at the point in history that nobody's ever met the Vulcans before. So either being a supervisor, she knows about the Vulcans, or
Gary Seven recognized Spock as a Vulcan.
Right. No human has met a Vulcan at this point, unless you count Carbon Creek, I guess. But I think that that tracks, because if there are supervisors, they're going to know many species, I believe, and I don't think that Earth would be their sole mission.
Yeah, because Gary Seven stepped out of the transporter and started yelling at Kirk for intercepting him, and then went, "Wait a minute, humans with a Vulcan? You're from the future."
Yeah, I think that all the stuff is. I'm not thinking that it's not actually happening. I'm not thinking that Picard's having a dream, but I think that his dreams are somehow manifesting what's going on around him. So,
like, reality is definitely mutable.
Yeah,
that's the only way the Jurati song number makes any sense in Star Trek. If this was, Red Dwarf or or something like that, then it'd be like, all right, fine, whatever. But that moment was so meta that if they don't explain it, I'm going to be very unhappy.
Oh, they're not going to explain it. Prepare to be unhappy.
It's just
they won't explain that.
If you're going to do an episode that's going to be as I said, a James Bond-esque black tie event, you're going to have one of the characters singing a song with a spotlight on them.
Yeah, but sing like a torch song. Sing something from the Great American Songbook. Don't sing like a pop song from the 80s. I mean, what she might as well sing Hell is for Children. It makes as much sense as anything if you're going to go to that well. I guess it was just easier to get the rights for that. One thing I was curious about, because it seems like they didn't even know what to do with Soong in this. He comes in and he confronts Picard. And he tells him, I have to stop you because Q. And Picard's like, no, you don't want to deal with Q. And then he says, oh, yeah, well, watch this. And then the lady comes up and says, thank you for joining our board. Thank you for that generous donation. And he goes off with the muckety mucks, like he's going to stop the flight from happening from top down. Like Picard won't even have a choice, because now he's on the board and he can say, I don't want her to go, or whatever. And they don't do anything with that. He goes off with them, and then he tries to run her over with his car. And it's like, why even bother having him like say, I'm going to manipulate the situation because I have the means and the wherewithal to sort of buy my way into their good graces and influence it that way, and then have him just be a sociopath with a car. Again, like, what is the point? What there is no real narrative through line going. There's no logic to the progression of the story.
I do have to say that my favorite part of the episode was the scene where Picard starts to walk away to go try and find Renee and talk to her, and he gets stopped by Adam Soong. The look on Picard's face when he's just face to face with Brent Spiner, it's just, I mean, he just stopped, and you could see on his face is like, this is Data, And then even when he tells him, he says, I'm Adam Soong, and it registers with him who he is and everything, he still is just bewildered. And Patrick Stewart just had a way of doing that I could see it on his face, but he also didn't lose his composure at the same time. So,
Patrick Stewart can make a bad script bearable.
yeah,
nobody's doing a bad job on camera.
No,
it's just the writing is kind of
wonky as shit.
I really think that there is something more to this than we're seeing, and I think I hate to keep harping on it, but I think that the Jurati song number, and the messing with reality, I think, is going to get worse, and I think we're going to find out that this is not. I mean, I'm sure we're heading for a reset button, of that I'm pretty sure. But I don't think the reality that we're seeing is particularly real. Maybe the Borg Queen, because she has that extra time sense, is able to manipulate it more and is not as much a slave to the perceived reality. And maybe that's how she was able to do it. I'd be fine with that. but I think that this is all Q trying to get Picard to realize something again. And this time it's all about love, I guess, or
I think it possibly could have. Well, first of all, I think it may have been Q. I mean, obviously, who saved him, because he made the choice to blow up the Stargazer instead of listening to the Borg Queen in the first place, when it was clear that she was just stunning people. But now we're in a situation where it looks like maybe the continuum has taken away Q's powers because of what he's done. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see where they go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Q
I'm not
is
entirely
completely
sure.
in
I'm sorry. Go
control.
ahead. I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
It's clear that Q is not completely in control at this point.
Not anymore. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there's a reason he's using technology. He's sending texts. He's pretending to be a therapist. Like, he's doing all these things that don't require a.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm very curious to see where they're.
I'm not entirely sure that Q has completely lost his powers, or that they've taken away his powers, or for some reason his powers don't work on her, or something like that. Because I mean, he got to the past somehow. He was able to take himself to the past. He didn't send Picard and them to the past. They went there on their own, and he followed, or he was already there. And I've seen a lot of speculation that it's a different version of Q because it's an alternate timeline. And I don't know. I kind of find it weird, find it hard to believe that he could imitate her therapist, and like nobody in the hospital knows that they've never seen this guy before. You would think there would be some kind of magic going on with that, but
he could have appeared further back in the timeline and always been her therapist.
Yeah.
And then at some point while he's sitting there and she's reading the thing, and he's like, uh-oh. The continuum have figured out what I'm doing, and they don't like that.
I ran out of magic.
Yeah.
I went back and got my degree for nothing.
But we also know he's not well.
Yeah.
He might be dying.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just him or if it's the entire continuum. Maybe he doesn't have any powers because the continuum is falling apart. Okay, so there was a lot of this and that happened in this episode that we could go on about, but I did want to mention a few things. Like Girardi's plan was to allow herself to get captured. We saw her do that at the end of last episode. In this episode, she's handcuffed to the chair. It's actually like 3 chairs bolted together, and she takes anesthesia out of her pocket and knocks the guards out. And like, that's the whole plan. How did you plan on getting out of the handcuffs? You didn't plan. I mean, she's able to get out because she lets the Borg just snap the Borg Queen snap the cuffs. But what was your plan?
Maybe she didn't expect handcuffs.
And Girardi, well, I mean, she takes that thing out and she knocks the guards out. She's got this big grin on her face, like, I did it. And it's like, you didn't even think about that you're knocking the guards out and you're sitting there handcuffed to a chair. I did like when the Borg Queen keeps picking at her, and she says that she thought it was really fun to lie to her friends, especially the one that she had intercourse with. And she says that wasn't fun. Well, I wasn't talking about that. But yeah, the whole thing with Seven just laughing it up, like Seven was just having a good time.
Yeah, dude, she was living her best life.
You guys do whatever you want to do. And Raffi says, it's good to see her let her hair down because she doesn't have to worry about those implants on her face and stuff like that. But
I'll say that I hate the way that Raffi has just become like the character who argues against whatever they're wanting to do.
Yeah.
No matter what, like, she's like, oh, I mean, I'm going to do this because we got to do the thing. And she's going to destroy the timeline. She doesn't care. We just got to do it. And then 5 seconds later, she's like, but that'll destroy the timeline. You kidding? She's just there to be like,
she's there to be Worf.
Yeah. And you've got the Borg Queen. I like this interaction that's going on between her and Girardi, but it got to be too much in this episode, because the stuff like the Borg Queen making her grab Rios by the tie and give him a big kiss and everything. Are you trying to help her, or are you trying to ruin her? Because you're kind of doing both.
Well, I think what she's trying to do is engender those positive feelings. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I took it as just the Borg Queen is like, I'm gonna have some fun, and I don't really care what your mission is. And this Borg Queen has been different from the minute we saw her, and I think that's one of the mystery boxes I think that they're saving to the very end is why, because she hasn't gone on an assimilation rampage. She could have killed everybody on the ship a million times over. Even in the first episode when we first saw her, she was stunning people instead of killing them. It was very clear that, at least to me, that when they blew up, when they self-destructed the Stargazer, they didn't understand that the Borg Queen was not being malicious. She was just doing the good thing in the only way she knows how. It's like when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
But it was clear that she was not trying to assimilate the fleet, she's been at least as benevolent as she can be, being a Borg all along. And now that she's got, she is ensconced in Jurati, I don't see her as, trying to, be evil or killing her. She's just like, I have legs, I have a body, I'm going to go have fun for a while.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've definitely been, speaking of hammers, they've really been hammering home this notion that, the Borg are now the other in this storyline, like, through mainly through 7, where, people are judging her based on her implants, like, oh my God, you're Borg. And then you have, the Borg Queen pop over and say like, look, I'm not here to hurt you. And she's just stunning people. Picard still blows up the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really like hammering home this idea of the Borg aren't quite so bad after all. And maybe we should be Starfleet, for God's sake, and actually hear them out and, give them the benefit of the doubt. Now, I mean, when you go back to First Contact, I mean, they've established that the Borg Queen is into necking.
Yeah.
She's looking for, and they, make the Locutus thing from TNG makes sense. Like, she was looking for an equal. She was looking for a partner. And now we've got a Borg Queen in Picard who is separated from the collective. So she's desperate for shared experiences. And now that she's in Jurati's body and she's not like chained up to the thing, she's like, yeah, maybe she needs the endorphins. Maybe she's also having a little fun.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's an interesting notion to just really kind of humanize the Borg Queen, even though she's like super cynical, but she's still like, I kind of want to connect. Come on, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I still can't say that I wouldn't trust her.
Well, no.
Well,
because
no, of course not.
they even made, I mean, at the end of the episode when they showed Jurati just walking down the street of Los Angeles, hey, the Borg Queen being loose in LA is not really a good thing.
It's a great thing.
Yeah, I mean, throw back to Scorpion. The Borg are the Borg, and the Borg Queen is the distillation of the Borg. So there's only so good she can be, but within those parameters, she's been on her best behavior.
But is she doing like V'ger, man? Is she saying, is this all that I am? Is there nothing more?
And that may be where it's going, where we may see a redemption arc for the Borg, which is something no one has tried to do yet, except for the Hugh storyline, maybe.
Well, what in the hell else can they do with the Borg?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Voyager ground them into our faces, and there's nowhere else to go. But everybody loves the Borg. Everybody loves the Borg.
Okay, so Picard finally goes and talks to Renee Picard, and he's able to he gives her this whole fatherly advice, kind of, or grandfatherly advice kind of talk and everything about
Or kooky old
about
security guard talk.
fear. Yeah. Telling her that, fear is fear. Fear just
Fear is
means
the
you're
mind
smart.
killer.
I was waiting for it.
And she goes back to the party, or she's going back to the party, and because she was going to quit, that's what her plan was. And she decides to go on with the mission. She goes with Picard, and of course Adam soon comes around the corner in his car, and he's gunning for Renee, and Picard pushes her out of the way and takes the hit himself. And then Soong just goes home and starts whining to his daughter. Is like, I failed. Well, I kind of failed, but I still failed.
My car doesn't have a reverse gear.
And so he goes off to bed or whatever, and that, like Dave was saying a minute ago, that finally gets her to say, you know what, let me go look on the computer and see what old dad is up to. And that's when she figures out that she is not the first of his daughters. He's had several, and they've all died of different things because he's a mad scientist, and he's playing.
He doesn't
with
know how
genetics.
to password protect his files.
Yeah, that too.
After he stopped talking and walked away, like I would have written in her just staring and going, now that's some crackpot shit.
See, crackpot shit right there. That's what. Yeah, but okay. So Picard gets taken to the hospital, the rated clinic, and Teresa Ramirez, I think is her name, and they let her work on him, and of course she shorts out her defibrillator with his Gollum body. And then she gets really upset with Rios about bringing her into all this and ask him who they are, and he won't give her a straight answer. He just says, we're the good guys. She says, good guys don't say that. So yeah, and then they had this conversation around Picard's unconscious body about how they can get him to wake up, and Talon is basically saying, I'm going to go into his brain and pull him back out. And it's like, okay, yeah, season 7, there we go.
Bashir O'Brien, what are you doing in here?
Did everybody like how she was like, they're all arguing, and she's like, and then they were quiet, and there was no reason to do it, but then like the doctor lady said, okay, everybody out.
Yeah.
And then like the very next scene, she just like walks out, goes, okay, you can go back in.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? That was
everybody
so
out. And she comes out, I'm going home, I'll be back in an hour. And she says, well, why is he still unconscious? I don't know.
He's a husk.
He should be awake, but he's not. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with him.
She's a GP, not a neurologist.
Yeah, well, so yeah, that's where I think we're going for next week. I mean, I don't have anything to substantiate that other than just my guess that next episode is going to be a lot of Talon. Am I saying her name right? Talon.
I don't know.
I don't know.
She's going to be walking around in the corridors of Picard's mind.
Yeah. I think we're going to see all of Picard's mommy issues finally.
Ooh, Chris, you're getting some reverb or something going on with your mic there.
Sorry,
all of a sudden it's really hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're going to spend the next episode in the windmills of his mind.
Yeah,
I'm down for it. I mean, it is kind of clear that's what they're going to do, but
answering the phone in Data's belly and
I love that meme of like him answering the phone saying something. What is it? Picard answering the phone and saying, "Yes, my phone is a Android or whatever."
Yeah, with unlimited data.
Yes, with unlimited data. That's it. Yeah.
Dave, do you remember in the market that we live in Birmingham? Do you remember back in the 90s that they used to do those mashup commercials with Star Trek and the Andy Griffith Show?
No,
they used, because
I was not in Birmingham when they did that.
Oh,
I was in
okay.
Montgomery.
The station, the local UHF station that used to show The Next Generation like every night at 9 p.m. And then the Andy Griffith Show would come on right after that, and they would advertise that they were back to back. And there were a series of commercials, and one of them was the phone in Data's stomach, and Picard answers it, and then it's Barney Fife on the other end of the
that's
of the line, and
fantastic.
they're going back and forth.
I
I'll
would
see if
love
I
to
can find them
those.
on YouTube. There was a whole series of them that they did where
Yeah.
one was Barney like doing some kind of karate stuff, and then they would cut and they'd be show Worf doing his
Yeah, that sounds like
calisthenics.
yeah, it sounds like a Me TV type of thing. So I probably was here. I've been a cord cutter for years, so I just haven't watched TV.
Yeah. All right. I have some trivia about the episode. Let me go down in my notes here. So, all right, we said this before, but including the previously on recap and the end credits, 2 of 1 runs only 38 minutes. Apart from the short treks, this is the shortest installment of live action Star Trek ever. Picard lures Renee back to the gala by saying that Dr. Jemison is making a toast. This is likely a reference to the NASA astronaut and the first black woman in space that had a cameo.
Was also on an episode of TNG.
Yeah, she had a cameo as Lieutenant Palmer in the episode Second Chances.
She was a transporter technician.
Mm-hmm. And when Corey is looking at her father's files, the first video she finds about her father's work is about a girl that he calls Persephone.
Yeah.
In Greek mythology, Corey is an alternate name for her, meaning maiden, and is typically used when discussing her prior to her abduction by Hades. Talon suggests using a form of jury-rig mind meld on Picard, and I didn't write down what it was called that she said that she uses, but they mentioned it also in Assignment Earth. It was the same.
He called it a servo. Is that what she called it?
Yeah.
Is that the sonic screwdriver?
Yeah.
Yeah. When Admiral Picard is talking to Renee Picard in the hallway, a few Easter eggs from previous series are shown. On a stand next to where Picard is standing, there is a model of the Nomad MK-15C space probe, launched from Earth in 2002 with a prototype artificial intelligence, and was Earth's first interstellar probe designed to seek out intelligent life. At some point, it crashed into.
I only watched it one time.
At some point, it crashed into an alien probe called Tanru in deep space, and the two units merged into an unstable sentient artificial intelligence from the Changeling. Second is the NASA Space Shuttle OV-165, which this is the first time any information is ever given about the shuttle. It first appeared in the opening credits of Enterprise. The number follows the registry system used by NASA from 1981 to 2011 for missions of the Space Shuttle program. The Space Shuttle Challenger had the registry number OV-099, and the Enterprise was OV-101.
And I'm pretty sure the set that her simulations were in was a shuttle cockpit.
Yeah. I did see one person online. It kind of made me chuckle. It said, instead of that Pat Benatar song, Girardi should have sang the theme from Enterprise.
Where my heart will
guarantee you it came up. No, Faith of the Heart.
Yeah, Faith of the Heart. Yeah.
No, it's called Where My Heart Will Take Me.
Oh.
The original version.
I thought you said Where My Heart Is, which is the song Aurora sings in Charlie X at the beginning.
Isn't there some discrepancy though? Isn't there like the version that Russell Watson sang was called Faith of the Heart, but then the original version was called Where My Heart Will Take Me or something like that? There's some kind of weird thing.
I've stopped caring.
That requires looking way too far into that song.
That was like some information I like stumbled upon somewhere, but I don't know if I'm remembering it correctly.
I remember there are like something along those lines. There's different versions recorded by different people,
but the name of a song is the name of a song. I mean, it's Where My Heart Will Take Me.
It wasn't.
It was a long road finding that.
It was originally on the Patch Adams soundtracks, sung by Rod Stewart, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm googling Faith of the Heart. Let me see what.
I think my biggest problem with it is it sounds like it's sung by Bryan. I know it isn't sung by Bryan Adams, but I can't stand Bryan Adams. So it's if someone sounds like him, that's as bad as being him.
Yeah, it's Where My Heart Will Take Me by Russell Watson. So I don't know if there's another song. There is another song called Faith of the Heart. I don't know if it's the same song or not, but
Probably not the same song.
Faith of the Heart was by Rod Stewart. That is the same song.
It is the
I'm
same
so confused.
song.
Why would they name it two different things?
Probably trying to avoid giving somebody some money.
But it's the same song.
Yeah, sometimes stuff like that happens because we know what was her name? Diane Warren is the person who wrote it, so she may have wanted it to be called a certain thing, and then Rod Stewart was like, "Nah, I don't like that," or some executive or Patch Adams said, "No, we're going to call it Faith of the Heart." You know what I mean? Like there's all sorts of bullshit like that.
We need to have a whole podcast about this.
we can
dive deep.
Why are songs named what they are named?
We could whip out our machetes and take a deep dive into this kind of bullshit for sure. But yeah, I just wish they had used Goldsmith's score from First Contact for the Enterprise opening theme. I think that fits better. But that's me.
I like the closing credits theme a lot better than.
Yeah,
Brandon
that's the first
is watching on Facebook, and he says Chris says I stopped caring. It's a long road getting from there to here.
And I love Enterprise. It's like legit my third favorite Star Trek show. I mean, I absolutely adore it. But you know, the song grew on me. I was just like, oh, this song, that's right. And then by the end of season 1, I was just like, yeah, Where My Heart Will Take Me. All right.
Yeah.
And Archer's theme at the end. I don't know that Enterprise would be Enterprise without Where My Heart Will Take Me. So, but First Contact is the first soundtrack I ever bought.
Really?
Because it's going to be weird. I was staying in a hotel in Florida. We had a
That's always
convention.
weird.
It was with my first job, and they had like on demand. And because we were at the hotel with the convention and we were like throwing the con, we had like free on demand in the room, and First Contact was on the on demand. So every time I went to the room, even if it was just for 15 minutes, I would put First Contact on. So consequently, I heard the opening theme to that like 5 dozen times. And I was like, this is really good. And I actually went out and I bought the soundtrack. I never before that had bought a soundtrack.
I'll have to check that out. I had the TMP soundtrack because when TMP came out, I was my father gave me the Star Wars soundtrack, the double album, you know, with the Darth Vader on the back and all the pictures inside for Christmas 1978. And then I got Empire Strikes Back and Jedi and Superman the movie, and I was just like a John Williams devotee. I had Raiders of the Lost Ark and you know, I had TMP and listened to it like crazy, and then fell out of love with the movie and stopped listening to it. And then years later, when I realized that it's really not such a bad movie, and now I have it on my MP3 player, but I never really paid attention to First Contact. I have the Wrath of Khan theme.
Well, yeah. Now I know all of them by heart. I just from watching Wrath of Khan, I know Wrath of Khan backwards and forwards. You know, and Search for Spock. You know,
that First Contact soundtrack is I mean, the Next Generation theme is the theme from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, because it was used in the motion picture. I think they used it again in Star Trek V, and then they
did. They used it in Star Trek V as well.
Yeah. And then after that, it's known as the Next Generation theme. But they did like a revamp of it for First Contact. It's a much more deeper and richer and symphony and
they used it mainly
and it was
mainly for the
really
closing credits. What they do is they segue into it from the First Contact theme into the Next Gen theme as part of the closing credits.
Yeah.
And you know, they have stings of it here and there throughout the movie, of course.
But Goldsmith doesn't phone it in. It's different from the motion picture to Next Generation, and from Next Generation to it is. There are differences.
Really? Because I thought there were, and then I listened to the TMP opening because that one I listened to the Enterprise scene a lot and the Klingon one. It sounded exactly the same.
Like, I don't know music enough to like explain it like, you know, exactly, but there are definitely like little like pieces that are longer, that kind of little flourishes and stuff that make it slightly different.
Well, it's odd, Rick, if you like the Klingon theme from TMP,
Yeah.
they actually do a reprise of it in the First Contact score
Oh,
when
yeah.
Worf flies in to
When-
fight the Borg cube.
Mhm.
Yep.
So, and that's on the soundtrack as well, and it's neat, just have that little callback.
Have any of y'all watched the new 4K version of the motion picture yet?
I
I
did.
put it on yesterday when I was messing with my computer. I wasn't paying real close attention to it, but it looked pretty good. Although they didn't clean up. I thought they were gonna redo a lot of the effects, and they kind of didn't. Like some of the blue screen matting
Mhm.
defects were not touched.
Where they couldn't because they couldn't find the original elements, so it's a bit of a patchwork in places, especially the beginning with the Klingon ships against V'ger, against the cloud. They just didn't have access to the original elements for it, so they couldn't recreate it, and I guess they erred on the side of staying pure to the film.
Well, I wish they would have aired on that side further in the movie, because the scene where Kirk and Spock and McCoy are all sitting in that area, and
The observation.
the
observation deck. Yeah.
And they completely just took out that they'd already changed it and had that little window for the director's cut DVD. They put the nacelles there.
Yeah.
This time they just took out the entire wall, and they erased Kirk and McCoy's faces.
Yeah, no, they didn't rotoscope Bones right. Like they literally cut off Bones' nose.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was just fuzzy.
Yeah.
It was just
And
fuzzy.
I heard you say that on your show, and I hadn't been watching during that scene. I was just listening. I just had it on in the background, and I have to go back and watch it again. I noticed that the nacelles out the windows look different from the director's cut, because they were. I thought they looked better because they were up higher, and it was kind of like lower below the nacelles, and you just sort of saw a little bit of it. And now they're put the whole thing there, and it just looked much more comic booky.
It did.
I had planned on watching it last night, but like I said, we were out of town this week and we didn't get back until about 10 o'clock. And you guys know how I feel about the motion picture anyway, so I definitely wasn't going to start watching it after a 6-hour car drive.
Yeah, you know what, Sean? It's still the motion picture.
Yeah, I mean,
they made it look as pretty as
I'm
possible,
going to watch
but it's
it.
still the motion picture.
I did watch the trailer for it today, and I was like, it looks pretty good. I'll try it out. I mean, it's the same movie, but
the Enterprise flyby is still one of my favorite moments in cinematic history.
Is it still 45 minutes long?
They didn't add to it. They could. I wish I would love it if it was 10 minutes longer. I wouldn't mind at all, but I know I'm in the minority there.
You get the hero shot of the ship, and you also get to really just indulge the score in that scene too.
Well, that moment when
bombast,
you get the first unobstructed view of the ship from the front, and it's like and it's just it never fails to hit me right in the gut.
Something that's bothered me since they put the director's cut out in 2001, they did it here again, obviously, was they cut out a lot of little key scenes that really give you an idea of how much pressure Kirk is feeling here. Like when the people beaming in basically just dematerialize and die. And they cut out the bit where he goes, "Oh my God." They cut the bit where they watched V'ger basically assimilate that station, and he says, monitor off or whatever, and then he says it again angrily because they're not doing it fast enough. They cut that second one, and I'm just
really?
I always just really loved that edge in Kirk's voice. He's just, damn it, he's had a day.
Yeah. Honestly, that's why I liked that movie so much, and why I think most people hated it, because the dynamic that you loved in Star Trek with the triumvirate of the Kirk, the Spock, McCoy, everybody's getting along, it's the Enterprise. This movie's not that, and it's not that for a reason, because they're all at different places in their life, and they're not going to be acting like that in this case, because Kirk is desperate to get his command back. He's facing a life of bureaucracy, and he's literally stealing command of the Enterprise back from Riker or Decker. I'm sorry,
Decker.
Yeah.
And what's worse is McCoy is calling
Spock.
him on all of his shit.
Right. McCoy's calling him all his shit because he's the closest to himself, but he doesn't want to be there. He was drafted. And Spock is just failed at trying to become Uber Vulcan. He's just failed at that. So he's in a huge transition too. So it's wonderful that they get on the ship and all of them are just estranged. because that is exactly what it would be at that point in their lives. It's a very interesting time to explore those characters and put them together. And then you get Wrath of Khan and you get Search for Spock, and they get back to sort of the dynamic that you like. But just so interesting. And Rick, I know you can tell me this, and I remember I probably learned it when I watched the director's cut for the first time with the commentary track. But what are those stupid little packs that are on their bellies?
They're supposed to be biomonitors. They were kind of like the precursor of the comm badge. They made a big deal about them in the book. That they monitored everybody's vital signs and kept the computer knew where everybody was because of that belt thing. But because they didn't go into any of that in the movie, it just looked like this silly bubble on their uniforms because they weren't wearing belts. They just had the thing.
I thought it was there to distract from the unsightly bulge.
Yeah. Especially with the dude standing on the little disc and they just pan right across his groin. Did y'all see the Lower Decks teaser trailer that came out?
Yes, I did.
No, I
Absolutely.
didn't realize it.
It's just like a cartoon Starfield in voiceover. You didn't.
Yeah, but it's awesome. We're stealing the Cerritos.
Yes,
there was a couple of other things that happened in as far as Star Trek news over the last week or so. The first is that even though we're in the middle of Star Trek Picard season 2, we got a teaser trailer for Star Trek Picard season 3. And
that was a weird choice. That
did we? I didn't see that.
It was it was because of First Contact Day. They always release something on First Contact.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay.
And so it was just basically the trailer is just Picard and some voiceover narration from different other characters from the Next Generation. And then the announcement was that the main cast of the Next Generation will all be in season 3. No, of course, I squealed. Everybody immediately was like, well, where's Will Wheaton? I was like, all right, number one, I mean, he wasn't in the main cast after season 4. So, but the thing I wanted to tell everybody was that they always hold back something. I mean, they're not going to tell you everything. They told us that that Q was going to be in season 2 way before they told us that it was going to be a time travel story, and then add in, the Guinan was going to be there, and the Borg was going to, they drip all this stuff out over time. They don't tell you everything at once. So
for nuts like us who pay attention, though, we knew that, because Patrick Stewart went on The View and asked Whoopi to be in season 2, way before. And then like John Delancey's over here on his cameo telling people, hey, don't tell anybody, but
you're gonna be seeing more of me.
And Will has been either being cagey, and but he's been basically like, if you guys can get me on the show, I'm down for it, but as of right now, I'm not in it.
And Terry Matalas has been pretty weird. People asking him about it. He's like, oh, that wacky traveler or whatever. Like, so he knows where Will Wheaton's character is.
Will Wheaton put out a whole thing. It's like, no, I'm not going to be in it. I'm a little disappointed too, but at least I get to talk to all my friends on my show and all that. And it's like, no, you're going to show up. He may not be as in as the others, but he's going to show up at some point.
And Terry Matalas has been winking so much you'd think he'd have a tick. He's been all over Twitter saying stuff like, no, they won't be the only people you see, wink. And then they're like, oh, will we see DS9 people? And he's like, I don't know, maybe. He's just because he's like, Matalas is a huge DS9 fan, so he's already said, like, when people are saying we need more DS9 stuff, he's like, Picard season 3. What does that mean? Tell us what that means.
Oh man. The other thing that came out was so there was an accident that happened. The way that I'm spinning it is that an accident happened, and then Paramount had to cover it up. But anyway, they released these posters that had Spock and there was another one for Dr. M'Benga. And both of them had their first names on the poster, and then
Spock Paramount Jack Ching Bada Bing, right?
I can't. Where is
It's not pronounceable by the human tongue.
It's Shin. Well, yeah.
uh.
Well, no. Spock only said he said that to one person that she wouldn't be able to pronounce it. She didn't say no. He didn't say nobody could pronounce it. But it's like Shin Tagai Spock or something like that. Okay, so Spock was given that particular first name in one of the novels from the 80s. And you know, Strange New Worlds has already brought in like Una's first name was from the novels, you know. And so they've already started to bring in some of that stuff. Paramount came out and said that these posters were incorrect. Those characters do indeed have first names, but they have yet to be revealed. No, they were revealed. You just accidentally signed off on some posters that weren't supposed to be released yet or something like that. So that's what I'm thinking happened. You know, it's but everybody is wait a minute, Spock has a first name? I thought Spock was his first name. It's like, I mean, technically he has to have a family name, and then he'd be Spock, son of Sarek of the family Shin Kai or something like that.
No.
But you know, otherwise
it was
you might
only
have 50
mentioned,
people that have the same name.
it was only mentioned in The Way to Eat, not The Way to Eden, This Side of Paradise, after the Spores were no longer in control of Spock, and Joe Ireland says, "You never told me if you had a first name," and he just says you couldn't pronounce it.
Yeah,
that's the totality of the mention of Spock's first name in the entirety of Star Trek.
That was that always reminded me. There was a scene from one of the Simpsons. I think it was the like Treehouse of Horrors, the ones where the two big one-eyed aliens always show up.
Kang and Kolos.
Somebody asked him what his name. I could tell you my full name, but I have to remove your tongue. All right. That's all I've got. You guys have anything else?
One last thing. Did you see any of the pictures from the Chicago Star Trek convention?
I saw the phaser and the tricorder and the communicator for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, those look pretty cool. But also the Tendi, Boimler, Mariner, and Ransom were there. I forget the actor's name. I mean, I know some of them.
Jerry O'Connell.
Yeah. But they were all in their uniforms. They were all cosplaying as their characters. Although,
really?
I hadn't seen that.
The girl who voices Tendi didn't do green makeup or anything, but it was and Jack Quaid had purple hair, like a plastic purple hair thing. It was great.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Like if they wanted to do like a live action crossover on Picard or something, you know, actually dye his hair. But yeah, I would buy them, every one of them, as like the physical representation of their characters.
And did you see? It wasn't just, they weren't just like wearing shirts that looked like their uniforms. They had the boots and everything.
Yeah.
with the red soles. Oh, it was sweet.
Yeah, I loved it.
Jack Quaid is in. I was watching the new Scream movie a few weeks ago, and which is just called Scream for some reason. Jack Quaid is like one of the main characters in that movie, and I didn't realize it was even him.
Everything these days
until I saw the credits come up at the end. It's like Jack Quaid. Oh, because I forget what he looks like, because basically I just hear his voice when I watch Lower Decks. But
I feel like at this point,
Boys?
Yeah. Well, I saw season 1 of The Boys, but it's been so long.
Oh, season 2 is so good.
Season 2 is even better, dude.
It's so good.
I don't have Prime right now.
Yeah, I feel like it says Scream has kind of become like such a meta joke in of itself. They should have called it like Scream 5, the Screaming, something, you know, just play into it, lean hard. Like, we know what this is.
Or just, I don't know, just the thing is that, so they've got inside Scream, there are horror movies called Stab, you know, so and in that they're like up to Stab 8, I think. Yeah, it's like, just give it some arbitrary number. I mean, it's Scream 6, but just call it Scream 12 or something like that. I mean, you know, like the Naked Gun used to do with their stuff. I mean, it's like, it's Naked Gun 33 1/3.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the other 32 1/2 movies.
Scream 5, Scream by Dawn.
All right. I want to thank everybody for being here. Rick, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you?
You can find me on Open the Iris, our Stargate SG-1 watch along podcast, and occasionally on Starbase 66. But you know what I'd really like to plug is the newest show to the network, Celluloid Pudding. I almost blanked on their name. It's a couple of very dear old friends of mine who are both way smarter than all of us combined, talking about movies, which fits right into us here. It's my friends Sam and Beth, and they have this incredibly intelligent yet accessible show where I just listened to part 1 of their Caligula episode today, and I haven't seen Caligula since 1981, and I'm just enjoying listening to them talk about not even necessarily the movie. It's talking about the stuff that led up to it and the people that made it. It's a real wonderful in-depth discussion of cinema, and I really think y'all will like it.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple of them, and I listened to their Dolores Claiborne episode a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and it was pretty good. I liked it. Chris, what about you? Where can we find you?
You can find me as a host on the Quantum Leap podcast. Very exciting time to listen to the Quantum Leap podcast. It might be out by the time this comes out, but as of now, Thursday next, we will be speaking to Deborah Pratt about the reboot, and we're going to put it out as soon as we can. After that, if you guys don't know, Deborah Pratt was like a co-creator, co-executive producer of Quantum Leap, and she's heavily involved in the new series, and she's going to come on and talk to us about it. So that's something to look forward to there. But quantumleappodcast.com, and we're also putting a ton of stuff out on YouTube, youtube.com/the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Okay. All right. Dave, what about you?
Well, I've got nothing to back that up. I mean, Jesus God, like Chris got some swag over here. You can find me at the local Ollie's in the graphic novel section, or if you're into DC, you can listen to me and my friend Jason Goss on DC on Screen, talking about all the DC Comics properties on film and television. Or if you want to hear me talk even more about Star Trek Universe Podcast.
All righty. And you guys check out our patreon.com/infinite potato. That's where you're going to find early access to episodes as well as movie commentaries. This month, I know I told you guys last month we would do it, but this month we will definitely be doing Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park sometime in the next few weeks. So you can join for $3 a month. You can also become a producer like Brandon Ushio, Dale Goodall, and Tom Corcoran to be a producer. Just $10 a month. And if you want to get in touch with the show and let us know what you thought about the Star Trek episode or about the podcast in general, go to infinitepotato.com, click on the link for that Star Trek podcast, and you'll find links to our Facebook group and our Twitter page and our email address. All right, that will do it for us. We will be back next week for episode 7, which is titled Monsters. Hopefully you will join us as well. Until then, thanks for being here. And remember, fear is fear. It doesn't speak in riddles.